Hello everyone, welcome again to this final class of the Strategic Management Unit. During this video we are gonna see an overview of the second part of the class. So we are gonna make an overview of classes 6 to 11 of this Strategic Management Unit. Please take in account that if you wanna make an overview of the unit, you have to see this video and the next video together with the videos on class 6, in which we did the overview of the first part of the course in the video 1 and 2. We are going to begin with the regulatory issues that we saw on the 6th class on the third video. Okay, as you remember, we spoke about the importance of legal matters in business. So you have to be especially aware when you are dealing of business within regulated industries. This is telecommunications, healthcare and life science, railroad, oil, gas, electric power and transmission, and financial services and trading. And you have to be especially carefully with some businesses that could have several impact within regulatory issues. For example, the case of gig economy. Gig economy is not still regulated in some countries, but in several countries is going to start to be regulated. It's the case of Spain, for example, in which regulation has had a huge impact on cases on Uber or Airbnb, okay? So you have to remember that a gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common and companies hire independent workers to certain commitments. For example, you have to remember that here in Spain, the labor inspectorate has not considered the riders, the self-employees of Deliveroo, as independent workers rather than employees. So you have to be careful with this kind of regulatory issues in new sectors as well. As you remember, on class 7, we spoke about the Porter generics strategies. Porter stated that in order to be successfully, any company has to choose one clear strategy. And he said that there were mainly three kinds of different strategies to succeed. First of all, a cost leadership strategy, a differentiation strategy, and a focus strategy. That could be as well a cost focus strategy or differentiation focus strategy. And those of these three strategies, cost leadership, differentiation, and focus strategies, has different features and fit different characteristics. In the case of cost leadership strategies, involves becoming the lowest organization in a domain of activity through, for example, lower input cost, economies of scale, experience, and product and process design. When we speak about differentiation, it involves uniqueness along some dimension that is sufficiently valued by customers to allow a price premium. I think that we spoke about Harley Davidson, for example. And in the case of the cost leadership strategy, I think that we spoke about Ryanair and another airline, very cheap airlines here in Europe. And finally, when we speak about focus strategy, a focus strategy targets a narrow segment and tailors its products or services to the needs of that segment to the exclusion of others. So a cost leadership strategy and the differentiation strategy are aimed to the general public, but a focus strategy just narrows a concrete segment of the market and targets its products of the needs of that concrete people. Continuing with the Porter generics strategies, as you remember, Porter stated that once your company has chosen one of the three different Porter generics strategies, the company has to go 100% for it, okay? So the company has to choose among a differentiation strategy, cost leadership strategy, or focus strategy. and you cannot be in the middle of those strategies, because according to Porter, if you do not choose one clear strategy, you're gonna finish stuck in the middle, okay? And according to Porter, this is the worst place to be, and a lot of competitors are going to win you in the battle. And we are gonna finish the Porter generic strategies by telling that the stuck in the middle theory is a controversial argument, and even the main Porter states that in several cases, in some specific cases, a company can combine several strategies. For example, in the case of IKEA, it has a cost leadership and as well a differentiation and a focus strategy. But it's just in cases of big companies with a huge strategy department. So you have to be carefully, and the general rule continues being the stuck in the middle theory. Continuing with class 7, in class 7 we spoke as well about the Boston Matrix. The Boston Growth Share Matrix is a planning tool created by Boston Consulting Group that uses graphical representations of a company's products or services in order to help the company to decide in which of those products or services the company shall keep, sell, or invest more in. The matrix assesses products on two dimensions. The first dimension, the variable one, looks at the product's general level of growth within this market. And the second dimension, the horizontal dimension, measures the product market share relative to the competitors in the industry. Analyzing products in this way provides a useful insight into the likely opportunities and problems with a particular product. And to finish with the Boston Matrix, as you remember, the Boston Matrix is divided into 4 different quadrants depending on the market growth and the relative market share. First of all, you have a star. A star is a business unit which has high market share in a growing market. Secondly, we have a question mark or a problem child, which is a business unit in a growing market but without a high market share. We do not know if it's going to succeed or to fail. Third of all, we have a co. A co is a business unit with a high market share in a mature market. You have to remember that we spoke about the Pareto principle. This is something that provides huge amounts of money to companies but do not require high efforts to the company. It's something that the company has been doing for a while, so it usually matches with a competitive advantage of the company. And finally, we have dogs. Dogs are businesses unit with a low share in a static or declining market. As you remember, if you are working for a dog company, you have to quit the company as soon as possible. Here you have a couple of characteristics of each of the 4 quadrants of the Boston Matrix. When we speak about stars, they are market leaders, fast growing, and require large investment to finance growth. When we speak about question marks, we do not know if the product or service is going to succeed or fail. We have to speak about rapid growth, very poor profits, heavy financing required, and uncertain. When we speak about the cash cows, we have to point out the profitable product, cash generating, and is established. And when we speak about dogs, they operate at a cost disadvantage in a static market and a few opportunities for growth at a reasonable cost. Here you can find an example, the case of Apple, in which the star will be the iPad, for example, dogs will be Apple TV, or the cash cows will be the iPhones. The conclusion of the Boston Matrix is that the bigger the market share or the faster the product market growth of a service or a product, the better it is for the company. And we finished class 7 by speaking about the McKinsey 7S model. As you remember, McKinsey is one of the biggest consultant companies on the world, and it designed this model. The goal of the McKinsey 7S model is to show how the 7 elements of the company shall be aligned together to achieve effectiveness in the company. So we have the 7S are structure, strategy, skills, staff, style, system, and shared values. This McKinsey 7S model can be applied to many situations and is a valuable tool when organizing design and questions. The most common uses of this model is to facilitate organizational change, to help implement new strategy, to identify how each area may change in a future, or to facilitate mergers of organizations. And what is the McKinsey 7S model about? Well, it is about align those 7S. So the first step, there are 5 steps to implement this McKinsey 7S model. But the first step, of course, is to identify the areas that are not effectively aligned with each other. Okay, so for example, you can see in this chart the 7S in a vertical position and then in a horizontal position, and you can see if structure is aligned with the strategy of the company, with the systems of the company, with the shared value, with the staff, with the style, or with the skills. And in the case that it's not aligned with a certain area, you have to fix that situation. And to finish with class 7, we have the 4 remaining steps of the McKinsey 7S model, which are secondly, determine the optimal organization design. So depending on which are gonna be the optimal design of the company, you have to align the 7S in what direction or another. The third step will be decide where and what changes should be made. The step 4, the implementation of such changes, make the necessary changes. And the step 5, of course, a continuously review of the 7S. You have to be aware that a company is living, is like a living animal, so it's in continuous change, and of course the 7S shall be continuously reviewed. During class 8, we had a special guest speaker, Adela Navarrete. She is working in the biggest multinational logistic company in the world, in Maersk, and I hope that she gave you some useful tips, okay, about your career, about the graduate programs, and so on. And finally, during class 8, we spoke as well about the game theory and Nash equilibrium, which are 2 theories used to anticipate to your competitor's decision. Okay, so you have to be aware that when we are speaking about businesses, our competitors are going to take decisions, and those decisions are going to have direct impact on our business models. Beginning with the Nash equilibrium, the Nash equilibrium describes the optimal state of the game where both players make optimal moves, in our case both competitors. In other words, a Nash equilibrium takes place when each competitor remains in the same position as long as no other competitors could take a different action. Each competitor would be worse off and therefore choose not to move. A well-known example of the Nash equilibrium plays out in the game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. But as we saw, the Nash equilibrium do not take place in the strategic management. Okay, the strategic choices are often intended to influence the choices of others. So we have to be aware when in the decision-making process that strategic thinking involves looking in the future to predict how our competitors will behave, and then using this information to make decisions and to anticipate our competitors' decisions. It's what we call the reverse technique. Starting with class 9, we saw the company's code of conduct. Okay, as you remember, A code of conduct is a tool to protect company against scandals, against your suppliers, your clients, issues that you may have. So nowadays it's very important to have several codes of conduct. To start speaking about the codes of conduct, you have to remember that we spoke about the Carroll's pyramid, which stated that a company's liabilities, a company's responsibilities is first of all to be economically sustainable, okay, to pay your debtors, to pay your creditors. The second responsibility would be legal, so to fulfill with all regulations, with all laws on the concrete country. The third level of the Carroll's pyramid would be ethic, so have ethical commitments with others, and the final one, the philanthropic level. In this case, the code of conduct, we will be in the ethic level, okay, as we are supposed as a company to fulfill with all legal requirements, okay, so we are above the legal level. And as you remember, we spoke about the 4 different kind of conduct: the code of conduct of manufacturers and suppliers, the code of conduct of responsible practice, the manual of criminal risk and prevention, and the procedure of whistleblowing channel. And usually there is centralized in the Committee of Ethics of the company. And as you remember, we saw a couple of codes of conduct of big companies as in the text. And here you can find a couple of issues that a code of conduct has to contain. So you have to control that your manufacturers, that your suppliers fulfill with those requirements, despite the fact that its legal system in its concrete countries do not require such aspects. But you have to control as a company that all your manufacturers, all your suppliers fulfill with those requirements, despite the fact that they are not binding in their countries. For example, employment is freely chosen, freedom of association and the right to collective bargaining, working conditions are safe and hygienic, environmental awareness, child labor shall not be used, living wage are paid, working hours are not excessive, no discrimination is practiced, regular employment is provided, no bribery or corruption will be tolerated, no harass or inhumane treat is allowed, and of course fulfill with all legal requirements. And we are going to finish the overview of the code of conduct by speaking about the manual of criminal risk prevention. As you remember, companies shall be criminally liable, and even the directors could have criminal liability as well. So it's very important to avoid such liability, that the companies have manuals of criminal risk prevention. So it's very important that company has books, has manuals in which state how the company is going to avoid that their employees have, for example, labor crimes, against money laundering, against IP and IT crimes, public health or environmental crimes, corporate crimes, of very important tax crimes. Okay, so it's very important that every company, every big company has manual of criminal risk prevention in order to avoid the criminal liability of the directors or the company itself. Continuing with class 9, we saw the blue ocean strategy that could be defined as the simultaneous pursuit of differentiation and low-cost strategy to open a new market space and create new demand. So as you remember, the 3 pillars generic strategy, cost leadership, differentiation, and focus, are not useful anymore for the blue ocean strategy, which tries to create a new market space and therefore to make the competition irrelevant. is based on the view that market boundaries and industry structure are not given and can be restructured by the actions and beliefs of the competitors. So you have to think out of the box and creating new business models. Is the case, for example, of Uber or Airbnb. So as you can see in the image, the most important for the blue ocean strategy is the value innovation. Okay, and when we speak about the red ocean strategy, we are a competitor fighting with in an ocean full of blood, as they're full of competitors. Okay, and compete in an existing market space is very difficult. You have to beat in the competition, you have to exploit existing demand, you have to make the value cost trade-off, and you have to align the whole system of a company's activities with the strategy choice of differentiation or low cost or focus strategy. Okay. However, if you choose the blue ocean strategy, if you have a very sustainable competitive advantage, if you have value innovation, you are going to create and contest the market space, and therefore you are going to make the competition irrelevant. You are going to have another general public to aim. If you fight in a blue ocean strategy, a blue ocean empty of blood, you are going to create and capture new demand, you are going to break the value cost trade-off, and you are going to align the whole system of the company's activities in pursuit of differentiation and low cost. So it's very important to create value innovation in order to escape of the red ocean strategy that is full of competitors, and to create a new market space in which we can make the competition irrelevant. And the tool that we saw when speaking about the blue ocean strategy is the ERRC grid: eliminate, reduce, raise, and create grid, which is a simple tool that drives companies to focus simultaneously on eliminating and reducing, as well as raising and creating, while unlocking a new blue ocean. So you have to wonder several things in order to disrupt in the market and make the competition irrelevant. For example, when we speak about the eliminate quadrant, we have to wonder which factors that the industry has long competed on should be eliminated. Maybe there are some fixed costs or some factors that are not really useful for clients. Okay. When we speak about reduce, we have to wonder which factors should be reduced well below the industry's standard. Maybe the clients do not give importance to some standards, and we can reduce such costs and such standards. When we speak about raise, we have to wonder which factors should be raised well above the industry standards. Maybe the clients are valuing other stuff. Okay, maybe we have to raise other factors. And finally, when we speak about the create quadrant, we have to wonder which factors should be created that the industry has never offered. Think, for example, on Uber. He started by introducing some technological factors that weren't present in the taxi industry. Think about the Airbnb company. It created some factors that weren't present in the hotel industry. So when we speak about the create quadrant, it's very important that we create value innovation. And we are going to finish this overview about the blue ocean strategy by speaking about a strategy called the winner takes all market. Okay, the winner takes all is a strategy, is a trend to refer that in economy in which the best performers are able to capture a very large share of the available rewards, while the remaining competitors are left with very little. So you have to think on Amazon, maybe on Apple or Microsoft. There are markets in which the winner takes all or almost all the market, and I think that internet has a lot to do with this trend. Maybe this coronavirus crisis is going to increase such winner takes all, and it's very important that you be aware of that trend in the market. We are going to see a brief video of a professor speaking about the winner takes all strategy.
People have always wanted to buy the best they could, and it used to be that the best was the best you could find locally. Now we're in contact at the click of a finger with everyone in the world. And so why buy the best locally when you can buy the best in the world? And so now the connection is between those who value the highest quality products the most and those who can deliver the highest quality products from all around the world. Normally when economists think about why some people earn more than others, they look at the human capital model. So if you have more training or more experience or you're more intelligent or you're a faster runner, all those things are components of your human capital. The intuitive notion is that you have twice as much, you earn twice as much as the next guy. But that's not the way it seems to be working out. The distribution of human capital doesn't seem to have changed in any measurable way since income inequality began rising. So if you think about the music industry, in 1900, you had to listen to music in a live hall. That was the only way you could hear music. And so everybody, of course, wanted to hear the best soprano, but there were only so many music halls the best soprano could get to on the tour. And so there really was a brisk market for thousands of sopranos, and they all earned a pretty good living. Most of the music people listen to now is recorded. Once you've figured out who the best soprano is, you don't need the 10th best soprano or the 11th best soprano. A handful of sopranos can record all the major works, and then we can stamp out copies of their recordings at essentially zero marginal cost. If consumers are willing to pay only a few cents more to hear the best, those singers will get the contracts and they'll earn seven-figure incomes. The singers who are only just slightly less talented than they are will teach music lessons to third graders. So it's a huge difference in pay, even though most listeners would have a hard time detecting differences in the quality of the voices if they were performing behind a blind screen. We decided to call these markets winner-take-all markets. Lots of people compete for a limited number of slots at the top, and the ones who land in those slots walk away with the lion's share of the total reward.
Well, thank you, students. We are going to finish the overview of the second part of the course on the third and the last video of this last class, and then I will give you some clues for the final exam. Thank you.